Hey, it's Francis Lamb, host of The Splendid Table. Every week on our show, we talk about food and cooking and the meanings of food and cooking. We talk with the most interesting people in food about their techniques, their culture, and everything in between. Whether it's about how fried chicken took over the world or how Instagram changes the way people are actually eating. It's a food show where everyone is welcome. Come join us. You can listen to The Splendid Table wherever you get your podcasts.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
I'm Lou Bank.
And I'm Greg Benson.
And this is an ad for Ancestral Agave Syrup, the critically acclaimed award-winning syrup that helps gringo bartenders better make margaritas, Negronis,
Lou, hold up, wait.
Old
Are you just...
fashions?
This is how you start your podcast.
What?
It's not an ad for Ancestral Agave Syrup.
Well, of course it is. I'm just cutting costs by not paying writers to make something new. I'm just using an old script.
You pay writers?
Is that some kind of jab?
No, I'm just saying that...
What are you saying?
Well, look, we've got this amazing syrup that's made in an ancestral manner, cooked down from the sap of the agave, harvested the way these families would to make pulque. It's a quality product. It deserves a quality presentation.
Yeah, okay, hang on. Ancestral agave syrup is made by real families following traditional methods. Unlike the industrial Blue Weber syrup you get everywhere else, Ancestral is cooked down from agua miel, harvested from Salmiana in Hidalgo, Mexico. It is the grade A Vermont maple to the sticky diner syrup you've been using for your cocktails. Ingredients matter, both in how your cocktail tastes and how you treat the earth. Ancestral is better for both. Is that good?
Sure. Or maybe confusing instead of cheesy. Look, just visit ancestralagave.com to learn more and to order your world-class agave syrup today.
And we'll call that a wrap. Catch you next ad, Greg.
Hasta pronto?
Ancestral Agave Syrup. Available online at ancestralagave.org and wherever Greg and Lou are able to coerce store owners into carrying it.
Agave Road Trip. Agave Road Trip.
I'm Lou Bank.
And I'm Nick Barreiro.
And this is Agave Road Trip, the critically acclaimed award-winning podcast that helps gringx bartenders better understand agave spirits in rural Mexico. Nick, you did not say where you're from, and where you're from is what this whole, well, I shouldn't say what the whole episode is about, but it's certainly going to be centered around where you're from. What do you do? Well, besides the beautiful clay work that you do, what do you do?
I'm in Austin, Texas right now. I'm from Austin, Texas, and I'm the owner of a handmade tile company called Clay Imports. I produce handmade ceramics, tile, tablewares, copitas, mezcal flasks. And I'm on this podcast primarily because in addition to Clay Imports, I'm also an adventure motorcycle rider, and I lead the Mezcal Moto-Rally, which is an annual adventure motorcycle trip founded on mezcal exploration through Mexico.
This is the coolest thing I have seen in a very long time, Nick. You know, like when you guys sent me the email, I thought, oh, Mezcal, okay, that's kind of interesting. And then I started seeing the swag, the logo. Okay, this is very cool. And then you sent me what definitely qualifies so far. And it's only end of March right now, so don't know what's going to happen, but definitely qualifies as the best swag box I have received this year. And I'll put pictures of the stuff. Like there's this beautiful flask and these beautiful copitas and the T-shirts. I'll put pictures of all of this up on the episode page. But I think for me, besides it being beautiful, what it spoke to is exactly what it is that you're doing. And what I mean by that, Nick, is it's not just a bunch of guys driving a motorcycle and then drinking at every stop, right?
No, not at all.
What is it?
Yeah, so the Mezcal Moto-Rally is well. Firstly, it's a rally race, and for those who are not familiar with what a rally race is, it's a typically a race that's based on points, the accumulation of points, as opposed to I guess the more typical understanding of a race is just whoever gets there first. I like to use the example of that TV show. It was called The Amazing Race or something a few years back, where people would. Almost like a scavenger hunt, kind of. It's founded on the concept of a rally race. So racers are given a rally book shortly before the race, and that rally book serves two purposes primarily. Number one, it's kind of a guide to their daily destination. So the race takes place over 3 days, usually a Friday, a Saturday, and a Sunday, and that rally book firstly serves as a guide to get them to their daily destination where they're supposed to be at the end of that day. And secondly, it has the list of all the challenges and the points that they can receive by achieving those challenges. And the challenges are, the racers are not aware of any of the challenges. They don't even know what the destination is that day until the night before takeoff. So these guys are true adventurers.
So the book, literally, when you're saying it's a book, it's really, in essence, like 3 chapters, and you get a chapter each night.
Exactly. Yeah. So on Thursday night.
How many pages is it? What are we talking about?
And I have an example. I have one of the rally books in my hand right now. And just for example, here, I'll show you
another beautiful piece of swag. So we'll, oh my God. So, okay. So wait, but so you get 3 of those. That's not the whole book.
You get the book the night before takeoff, and that night the book only has the challenges for day 1.
Right.
So that night everyone's kind of sitting around and they're comparing the next day's challenges. They're like, oh man, look, we're going to start at this place, we're going to hit these challenges. And the cool part about the book being a guide as opposed to directions is it gives the opportunity for so much diversity in the journey. So you'll have 2 guys that'll take off one direction, 3 guys that go a totally different direction, 1 guy who's like staying back, and just on his own. But some of the challenges, so of course this is the Mezcal Moto-Rally. It's not just a general rally. So I focus a lot of the challenges on Mezcal. And I just want to say that we don't drink on the ride.
Right.
Obviously.
Yeah, it's not how much can you drink. That's not a challenge. No. Right.
Yeah. So the challenges are, they'll include components of mezcal. So Lou, as you know, the mezcal flask that you received in your
so beautiful.
I call it my podcast bribe box. So
bribe accepted, Nick.
Yeah, so the mezcal flask. So the 2 key components to this race are the rally book that we talked about, and then the mezcal flask. This is a handmade clay mezcal flask. Very traditional, and unfortunately, or you know what, maybe we can share a picture with people listening later on.
Definitely on the episode page.
Yeah. So the importance of the flask is the challenges. Some of the challenges are go to a specific or explore and find a mezcaleria. Actually, that's another thing I wanted to ask you about. The term for the place where the mezcal is distilled. Of course, people use palenque and fabrica and. Anyway,
sure, but not in taberna. Yeah.
So find the place where the mezcal is being made, or guidelines. Again, these are not directions in the book. I'll guide the racers to a general area where there might be mezcal being made, and then it's up to them to kind of find where that mezcal is, learn a little bit about the production process, talk to the community. What kind of food are they eating? What's happening in the area, and then most importantly, fill your flask up with whatever mezcal it is that you discovered. And then at the daily destination, the finish line for that day, everybody pulls out their bottles, their flask, and we all talk about which route did you take, what mezcaleria or what palenque did you get your mezcal from, what did you have for lunch, what was the production process like at this place that you went to.
Oh my God.
So and so that's just a general breakdown of what the Mezcal Moto-Rally is.
But
it evolved. Oh, go ahead.
I got to say, Nick, like when you say that's what it is, of course that is what it is at a literal level. But the thing that I stopped watching, I swear to God, I couldn't have been more than 10 minutes into your first episode on YouTube. I had to stop watching because I found myself so engaged, and I thought, if I watch this whole thing, I'm going to learn everything, and then I'm not going to sound like I'm discovering anything when you and I speak on the podcast, right? And I didn't want that, so I'm going to go and watch it now afterwards. But the thing that immediately struck me, and all credit to what's Jane's last name?
Yang.
All credit to Jane Yang for her video skills and her editing skills. Like, I was completely immersed and completely engaged in this because it felt to me like what you were really doing was building community. You all have this thing that you love to do, right? Riding your motorcycles long distances and exploring new places. And you're focusing all of that on a very specific tradition, let's say, of making spirits from agave in rural Mexico using primarily pre-industrial methods. And I find the combination, like sort of that Venn diagram overlap of interests, to be absolutely compelling and absolutely fascinating. And I am terrified of motorcycles, and it makes me want to learn how to ride a motorcycle.
Well, yeah, man. Yeah. So, the rally didn't necessarily start off this way. It's kind of evolved to what it is right now, and I'm excited about the.
Did it used to be? Was it a beer rally first? Is that what you're saying?
No. So, the first year of the rally was, oh God, it was a little more traditional, in the sense that it was a rally race and I had challenges, and the challenges were a lot of fun. And I try to really stay away from stereotypical activities when I'm creating the challenges. Like, I don't know, whatever perceptions people have about the motorcycle guy riding through the desert or whatever. We really try to break those stereotypes, and we do more, I guess, fun activities. Just some examples are like, go to this area and take in the landscape and write a poem about it. Just
that's lovely.
Yeah, I guess very unconventional, very non motorcycle guy kind of stuff. Oh
God, actually, poetry and motorcycles feel to me like they've been going together since the 1950s or 60s, at least.
Yeah, and.
Oh, Present Lou, why rely on your feels? We have Agave Road Trip poet laureate Larry Beckett, who can share facts. Take it away, Larry.
Yeah, the thing is, the beats emerged in the mid-50s, and so did Marlon Brando in The Wild One. But they weren't connected. They were both countercultural, but Brando didn't mess with the beats, and the beats didn't have motorcycles. The closest thing to a motorcycle poem I know is Arlo Guthrie. I don't want a pickle. I just want to ride my motorcycle.
Anyways, I was saying the rally has evolved to what it is right now. It was a little more traditional in the sense that instead of people bringing their own mezcal or finding or discovering the palenque and learning about it and then bringing that to the party, the bottle right now is kind of like self-educational or something like that, whereas before we used to get to the party and there would be a guy there and he's like, I make mezcal and I'm going to tell you about these different types of agaves, and now everybody's going to get half an ounce of this one, and we're all going to we're all going to try it with a piece of chocolate, and everyone's going to tell me what. And that was a disaster. Like, we had these guys that just rode, halfway across Mexico, getting off their motorcycles, and they're all just like, they all just had this experience that they want to talk about, and they're just like exploding, they're bursting at the seams, and then they're just like everyone's like, we have to be quiet for an hour now and take a tiny sip of this mezcal, and which that's a very traditional thing, right? It was a very normal tasting experience, which under most circumstances, it probably would have been fine. But like, that was the wrong situation for the Moto Rally. So now it's everybody shows up. Nobody knows a whole lot about agave or mezcal, but everyone just had this experience of a lifetime acquiring this 400 milliliters of mezcal and riding through various states in Mexico and achieving challenges. And now they're sitting with this guy that they don't really know, but he just went through a very similar journey. And they're talking about their day.
Oh, God, that sounds so beautiful. And when people sign up for this, they're already at least mezcal curious, right?
Oh, yeah, very much. If not mezcal curious. So just to give you an example, there's a couple of guys, and they actually they have a podcast of their own. It's called High Proof Adventures, and these are whiskey guys. Like they know everything about whiskey. They travel for whiskey. They're collectors or whatever, and then they heard about the Mezcal Moto-Rally, and they were already into motorcycling. And it's cool to see the way that they are, I don't know, evolving into.
I would almost say devolving.
Yeah,
right.
Sure. Yeah,
right. But boy, are they now? It's got to be awkward for them if they've been whiskey guys and they're talking about small batch whiskey, and then they see actual small batch for agave spirits, pre-industrial. That's got to be a little awkward for them in terms of their identity.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's always interesting to. And again, I'm talking about very casual circumstances, like just conversational, but it's always interesting to hear them talk about whiskey or make comparisons between maybe not necessarily the production processes, but just making comparisons, flavor. Yeah. The alcohol, the proof, the alcohol percentages. Yeah. Because a lot of the mezcals that we come across, they're pretty low, pretty low alcohol. Like, some of them are down to like the 30s, 38, 39.
Oh, yeah, which is this beautiful thing that, because you're traveling primarily in the northern part of Mexico, right?
Well, not necessarily. So I should have mentioned this earlier, but the Mezcal Moto-Rally is it's a 9-year mission. So the Moto-Rally, well, it has an end. So every year the Mezcal Moto-Rally starts in a city in Texas, and it ends in a mezcal producing state in Mexico. So year one was 2022. We started in Austin, Texas, and we went to Oaxaca, which, that's pretty far down there. Then 2023, the last Moto Rally, started in Laredo, Texas, and ended in Zihuatanejo in the state of Guerrero.
Yeah.
So we got 2 off the list. 2024 Moto Rally, which is in April. That one's going to start in McAllen, Texas, and that'll end in Cholula, Puebla. That'll be our 3rd mezcal producing state. Oh my God.
Okay, you and I are going to have a conversation because I have a very good friend who has a very good bar in Cholula.
Oh man, awesome. That's great.
It's one of my favorite places. I'm going to point you to some stuff for Cholula. I love me some Cholula.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah, and that's the greatest city to have the most activities in, because that's our end. That's the end of the race. And that at the end of the race, most of the racers will just stay an extra day and just hang out. But it's the only city. The last city is the only city where we really get to like explore and hang out all night and then sleep late the next day. Oh. The other cities during the rally, most of the racers their day ends at probably 11 p.m. and then we're awake at 6 o'clock, and takeoff is 7 a.m. So we don't get to we don't get to take in much of the cities or the towns on day 1 and 2. But man, having a cool bar to hang out in Cholula would be awesome.
Yeah, you're saying you don't get to see the cities that you land in, which I get, but my brother and I for years would take long bicycle rides where we'd go 100 miles a day for a week and cross a different state, or go from like Nashville to New Orleans, like that. And what I found was when we got to the end spot, we were exhausted and we just passed out. But the stuff that you see in between, you see in a much more immersive, interactive, and meaningful way than you would traveling at a different pace, let's say, and adding in these challenges. You're forcing people to really better understand rural Mexico, and that I'd actually argue goes back to exactly what you're saying about these spirits being 30%, 35%, where mezcal geeks, and I suspect you're not in this circle, but mezcal geeks tend to believe, well, it has to be at least 45%, and really it should be 50% to be real mezcal. But there are so many communities where that's not the tradition. And the tradition, like my friends in Guanajuato make this beautiful spirit at 28%, beautiful spirit, so that they can drink it and drink it all night and be conscious all night. And, and if you try to do that with 50%, 55%, forget about it. You're done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So where else have you traveled in Guanajuato? Because I live primarily in Guanajuato, in San Miguel de Allende.
Oh, okay, right on. So I visited there a bit. There's a ranch outside of there, Rancho Villa Organica, that's got this really interesting program where they do a bunch of things. But the thing that I'm most focused on is they'll take the pencas of the agave, the leaves of the agave, they'll shred it, and then they'll ferment those shredded agave pencas with mesquite pods, to make this alternative cattle feed. And it's something they've been doing for, I want to say, like 12, 13 years now, and successfully feeding cattle, feeding goats, feeding all sorts of livestock with this. And it's an alternative in parts of, obviously you can use it anywhere, but I think it's a potential solution to places in Mexico that are becoming more arid, that are losing their water, which, is all over the news now. And when you lose the water, you lose the grass. When you lose the grass, what does your livestock eat? And when you lose the grass and everything becomes a desert, well, the one thing you can grow is agave. So I visited there a number of times, and then my friends, I'll have Future Lou drop the name of the actual town here, but it's about 45 minutes out of San Luis Potosí.
Hey, Pass Lou, it's Future Lou, and the town is San Felipe, Guanajuato.
And it's where they make Mezcal Villasuso.
Oh, yeah. Actually, that mezcal that you have right now that I sent you, that comes from a little palenque right next door to where the Villasuso is produced.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. And again, I don't know, if, I don't know what I can and can't say about the brands or whatever. But that place where they make the Villasuso, that's my go-to for just like my, my house mezcal that I keep kind of at home. I have a big old jug, like a 5-gallon jug. And that place where they make the Villasuso, and the racers actually went there. You'll see it in, I think, episode 2 of the Moto-Rally season 2023. Episode 2, they all went to there. A lot of them went to that palenque where they make the Villasuso, and they don't have bottles there. So I guess I'm speculating a lot here, but they bottle for all the Villasuso there, and nobody buys those bottles. So I don't even know if they sell those bottles, but you can see the production happening and the bottling happening. And then separately, people just show up, like a whole family, on their way to like a quinceañera or something. They'll show up with just a bunch of Sprite bottles, and, they just sell it by the liter, and the price is so incredibly affordable. I'll usually buy like between 5 and 15 liters at a time.
This is great. So in fact, I've heard the story from Milena as to, selling bulk versus them selling bottles. And I could tell you the story, but instead, since I'm going to literally be seeing Milena at Villasuso a week from today, instead I'll record the story from her and I'll drop it in here so that she can explain to you the origins of that.
I never heard that. What I can tell you is some people come with their own bottles or their own, like even Coca glass bottle, right? Because they don't want the 5 liters that we have, because we have 5-liter bottle. And the one that we have in 50 is the bottle, and they want their own liquid and their own thing, right?
You know, that story, right, of you being immersed in these at these producers' homes and learning what they do on your own as part of the challenges. I think, you know, to bring this back to what this podcast is about, I think that is such an incredible way for gringx bartenders to not only learn more about agave spirits, but also to learn it in a way that gives them a narrative that they can tell, a very true story that they can tell about their experiences that will come from their heart, that they'll be passionate about, that will affect the people that they are sharing these spirits with at their bars, or similar spirits if they can't literally share those spirits legally. And that is almost certain to get more people interested in these traditional spirits. I love everything about that. I love everything that you've done to build this community, and I want to see a bunch of gringx bartenders on the next trip.
Yeah, and so fortunately, we also video document the trips every year, and the video series on YouTube is probably the easiest way to access, the experiences that the people are coming across in these different fabricas, mezcalerias. So yeah, what do you? I mean, am I asking the right? I guess I'm asking the right person, right? So sometimes I'm going down the road and I'm trying to. I scout these trips out before I write the rally books.
Sure.
And I scout them out, and I'm riding down the road and I'm asking the guy who's like just walking beside me. You know, I'm on the motorcycle and I stop and I ask the guy, I'm like, where's the mezcal? Mm-hmm. And then he'll tell me he'll tell me in Spanish, right? La mezcalería está por aquí, en esta calle, he'll give me direction, and he says mezcalería, and then that's my wife tells me that's not the right term.
Well, it is if it's the right term to that person, right? And if it's somebody who's walking around and drinks mezcal and isn't immersed in that world of making it, right? To them, it probably is a mezcaleria because that's where they're going to go and they're going to drink it. But traditionally, like when you say pulqueria, mezcaleria, that's where taqueria, that's where you consume the thing. And they probably do. But these communities have such different, I shouldn't say such, it's not as difficult to know all these words as it is to know all of the local names for the different agaves. That can just be maddening. But in essence, you've got your Palenque, you've got your Fabrica, you've got your Vinata, you've got your Taberna. I'm sure I'm forgetting some term, and I'm sure that people will jump onto my Instagram account and remind me. But I tend to just cover it all by saying the place where they make the agave spirits, the distillery, and generally when I'm driving around, and I do the same thing that you do, right? I'm driving around, I see somebody walking. In my case, I can actually pick them up because they're probably going the same place I'm going, because these roads tend to be, single road, one destination. And, I can't have the conversation with them because I don't speak Spanish, but I usually will have somebody in the car with me who does, and that's what we'll say is, hey, we're looking for distilleries. Do you know any? And sometimes, and this, I'm curious if this has ever happened in your moto rallies, but sometimes that leads us to places where they're making aguardiente from cane, right? You'll end up at a rum distillery in essence, and that can also be, if you're expecting agave, disappointing. But if you're open to the beautiful rums that are being made all over Mexico, it can be this epiphany as well. So has anybody ever come back with a flask full of aguardiente?
No, they have not. But that's that would make a really good challenge. Actually, I'm going to make a note of that one.
We'll lead you to some of those rum areas. We'll send me the path for the next tour, and we can have that conversation.
Yeah. Actually, I'm writing the rally book. I'm writing the rally book this week, actually. So the rally takeoff is on April 19th.
Oh my
from
God,
McAllen,
it's really
Texas.
soon.
Yeah, it's coming up in about a month, less than a month now. And I usually wait till not for like I'm not a procrastinator, but I wait till almost the very end, right before takeoff to get the rally challenges written. Just it's because like I'm in Austin right now. I'm about to drive back to San Miguel de Allende. I'm driving, and it's just like every time I'm always coming across these new experiences. And if I write the book too early, I can't put that new experience in there.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll even wait until after I see you in Guanajuato to finish the challenges.
Wow, that is cutting it close. That is cutting it close. Is it possible that you could share with me the old rally books that I could add as downloadable PDFs to the website?
Oh yeah, actually, that would give me a great excuse to actually scan these. There's no digital copies of these in existence.
That's
that I'm aware of.
hilarious.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Yeah. Anyway, I just want to. So of course I'll scan these and share them with you. But this is one of my favorite challenges. So this is a tattoo sheet.
Oh, that is so beautiful.
Yeah,
the challenge is you have to get a tattoo.
No, well, not necessarily. The challenge it's an arm wrestling challenge. So at the at night over Mezcal, we'll have an arm wrestling competition, and if you lose, then the winner picks your tattoo from this tattoo book.
That's awesome. I am definitely not playing with you guys now. So your next by the time this airs, actually, you'll already have finished the April 19th run. But let me ask you, what is it? You do it every April?
Yeah, every April.
Okay, and what does it cost to participate?
Registration is between $600 and $700 for the 3-day experience. That's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It includes lodging and food, and then of course mezcal and other beverages. So it's really affordable. Actually, I think I might actually lose money on the rally every year because my wife and I are the organizers. So people just pay the registration, and then we spend the whole year just traveling around Mexico, just trying to figure out which towns we're going to stay at, which hotels specifically we're going to stay at, what's a cool thing to eat in that area. It really gives us an opportunity to explore Mexico for several months just to prepare for it.
Oh, God, that sounds so cool. Okay, and then is there a limit to how many people can participate?
Yeah, 15 people. That's the limit. 15. Maybe squeeze in 16, but if we get beyond that, then we have just major logistic challenges like having everybody fit in the same room to have dinner. Hotels that have more than 12 beds are hard to find in a lot of these rural areas. So we cap it at 15, and of those 15, so far, everybody has completed the race every year. This is our third year. 2024 will be the third year, and everyone's made it to the finish line. Oh no, actually no. Yeah, one guy in year one didn't make it. He's fine though. He's okay. He just turned around.
That was a little ominous. Didn't make it. That's a little ominous. Maybe change the wording next time.
We changed a lot of things after year one. Actually, I mean, it's a really challenging experience. Just the ride alone, without taking on any of the challenges, it's 1,300 miles, 1,300 miles one way from the takeoff to the final destination at the end of day 3. 1,300 miles, and 1,300 miles can be really challenging if, in elevation changes, it gets really hot, it gets really cold. Just a lot of the roads aren't paved, a lot of dust. Yeah. In fact, in 2024, this is probably going to be our most challenging, just with regards to the actual motorcycle ride. Mm-hmm. This is probably going to be our most challenging year. We're actually, I don't give away too much about, this is going to come out afterwards anyway, but so much of the ride, the route challenges, it's so spontaneous for the people involved. But anyway, I don't give away too much, but since this is going to come out afterwards, we on day 2, our destination for day 2 is this really small town on the Gulf Coast, about 150 miles south of Tampico. Mm-hmm. It's called Tamahuia, and it's at sea level, of course, Gulf Coast. And then that's where we'll take off from on Saturday morning. And then we're riding to the top of the Pico de Orizaba. the largest volcano in the American continents.
Yeah, I think I drove by there last summer, and it was literally July, and there was snow.
Oh yeah, it's snow capped year round.
Oh my God, that's crazy. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So our hope for day 2, if everything goes according to plan, is people are going to have the opportunity to ride from sea level to an elevation of anywhere from 16 to 18,000 feet in less than 8 hours.
Oh my God, that is awesome. And okay, so tell me then, how many people are return ralliers? Is that what you call yourselves? Ralliers? What do you call them?
Racers.
Racers. Okay.
Yeah, racers. Yeah. A lot of them come back.
I was thinking
the majority.
that, but when you say 15 seats, like it feels to me like, oh, well, that's actually probably at least half our return. So you're really talking about maybe 7 people can get in each year new.
Yeah, we open registration up. In May. So shortly after we complete the rally, we'll open up registration for the next year, and it usually sells out in 5 minutes.
and you don't have any desire to repeat it like a month later, do an April, do a May, do a June?
No, I don't. I mean, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I hear that.
I did play around with the idea of maybe having like groups, so one group would take off from the starting line on Friday. The next group would follow them, taking off from the starting line on Saturday. Just kind of have 2 groups back to back.
Yeah, but then you're turning it into work, and I can tell just from the way your eyes are glowing as you talk about this that you don't want this to be work. This is the passion. This is the fun.
Oh yeah. In fact, yeah. And speaking of that, there's this incredible chef, this woman who she joined us on year 1 to be the driver, basically. She's a chef from Austin. Her name's Katie, and she joined us to be the driver. And she ended up cooking a lot of the meals, and now she's creating a menu for each of the towns that we're going to be staying in. She's creating a menu based on the food from that region.
Wow!
And it's so incredible to see how that was evolving. And then I told her, I'm like, hey, can we just pay you? I'll pay you, and you do all the food stuff. Just take care of all. And she said the same thing. She's like, I don't want this to be work for me. So yeah. It's really cool.
But I love the idea of sharing your not only the route, right? Because it's not really a route. It's here. We're going from here to here. You figure out how, right? And the participants, it sounds like they're going to take their individual routes and have individual discoveries. And doing some kind of summation afterwards where someone could follow different routes and could see these places on like a Google map or something so that they could have their own experience if they wanted to, and then, contribute to the cause, so to speak, as a contribution after, I think is a beautiful way to get more people engaged in the community that doesn't become more work for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, my hope right now is just through the video series, people discovering new locations through the video series. But I have mixed feelings about that one, Lou. Like, I think it's cool to share the experience with more people. But sometimes I feel like bringing too many people, whether it's in person or whether it's in person or just letting people know about something. I don't know. Sometimes I have concerns that could like mess it up for me.
Well, boy, I hear what you're saying. You're saying mess it up for you, but I think also just mess it up for them and change the fabric of who they are. It reminds me of what Jason Cox says every time he buys a batch from one of these mezcaleros he sources from. He's the guy who owns Cinco Sentidos, the brand of agave spirits, and he's nervous every time that he's changing their lives and putting them on a different trajectory that's going to seem like it's better, but maybe it isn't better in the long run. And, keeping things small, I think keeping things small can be good.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, that's a big conversation, and I try not to even think about it. Yeah, but something that I have thought about a lot lately. So it's an election year in Mexico, 2024. It's like a presidential election year. Anyway, yeah, not to get too deep into politics, but just something that I have noticed over the past several years, specifically in rural Mexico. And I'm speaking about this strictly through like motorcycle traveling experience and how it affects the actual rides. But the infrastructure, the actual roads, the infrastructure around central and south rural Mexico is evolving so much. And it's beautiful.
God.
Like the new highway systems, or the just the paved roads in general that are connecting smaller towns and pueblos, villages, or whatever, connecting them to either a large city or a highway that gets them to a large city. Man, that infrastructure is, I mean, just in the past 10 years has, it's like, it's another world, really. And then the way that they're doing it also, and again, I don't know a whole lot about, how the federal government or whatever funds these road projects, but just sitting at some bars sometimes talking to the guys that, like the construction crews, it's really cool. So the federal government, or at least what I'm told by these guys, the federal government, they'll pay for like half of the highway, right? They pay for half of the road, and then they make it the responsibility of whatever community it is that road is crossing through. That community has to literally figure out how to create the other half of the road. And I mean, this is a very literal physical thing. So you'll see parts of the road where the tires go, right? And this is very dense concrete. And then you'll see the other parts of the road, and this will change from town to town. So that concrete will stay consistent through the different towns, but the paving material or the paving style between the concrete is always changing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I took a trip to the Mixteca several years ago. I want to say it was like 2019. It was definitely pre-pandemic. And we were shocked to find a paved road where it hadn't been on the previous trip. And so I was just, pedal to the floor, flying. And then suddenly the road became dirt. And it was a very, very awkward transition. Yeah. So I hear that, but since then, you're not wrong. That was in the middle, I think, of that real ramp up, at least of rural Oaxaca's roadways. But I've seen so many roads where I used to see dirt. Yeah, and as you say, right, like that's a very good thing in some ways, and then it's changing the fabric of these communities when they're that accessible in other ways, and. There's always going to be winners and losers in that kind of transition. So I think being mindful of how you utilize the roads and how you benefit the communities where you go. And I'm not even sure what that means to be mindful, honestly. But I think it's something that we're going to have to that we should think about and that we should ask about when we visit those communities.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how the accessibility to these places, how they're becoming so much easier to get to now.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about places where they make mezcal, but just remote areas in general around Mexico. It's going to be really interesting to see how this new infrastructure and the way that they're becoming more accessible is going to affect them or Mexico in general, tourism, whatever.
Right on. Okay, I think, Nick, this is a good time to wrap it up. I'm going to try to get this episode out if you're listening to this, and it is not quite middle of May. It might be time for you to go and try to register. Can people sign up on your website to be notified when registration opens?
Yeah, they can sign up for a newsletter on the website.
There you go. Okay, so I'm going to try to get this out before end of May, so that if you're interested, if you're a gringx bartender who wants to see Mexico on a motorcycle, you can hopefully sign up and get one of those rare coveted spots. And as I say, I'll share as much stuff as you're willing to give to me. I'll share that on the episode page as well. And man, Nick, thank you. Thank you for the conversation. Thank you for putting together this amazing community. And thanks for the very sweet swag. And yeah, just thanks, man.
Oh, thank you for giving me the opportunity to promote this to your audience. And I look forward to seeing you hopefully very soon in Guanajuato.
Hasta pronto, amigo.
All right.
You've been listening to Agave Road Trip, the critically acclaimed award-winning podcast that helps gringx bartenders better understand agave spirits, and rural Mexico. We're blessed with sound engineering by Roy Sierra and a theme song performed by Gabriel Oliveira and Marco Ricos. Sign up to become a road tripper and listen to more episodes at agaveroadtrip.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, please let us know. And if you hated it, well, I'm sure you'll let us know that too. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at Agave Road Trip. Agave Road Trip is a production of 10 Angry Pit Bulls, Inc. Agave Road Trip is powered by Simplecast. Thank you for listening to Heritage Radio Network. Heritage Radio Network is food radio supported by you. For our freshest content, subscribe to our newsletter. To subscribe to the Heritage Radio newsletter, enter your email at the bottom of our website, heritageradionetwork.org. Connect with Heritage Radio Network on Instagram and Twitter at heritage_radio. You can also find Heritage Radio Network at facebook.com/Heritage Radio Network. Heritage Radio Network is a nonprofit organization using the power of educational storytelling about food to build a more equitable, resilient food system. Heritage Radio Network couldn't do that without support from listeners like you. Become a part of the world's most innovative community today. Subscribe to the shows you like. Tell your friends. And please join the Heritage Radio Network family by becoming a member. To become a member of the Heritage Radio Network, click on the beating heart of our homepage. Heritage Radio Network can become addictive. Programming you hear on Heritage Radio Network might lead you to eat, drink, and listen to more programming on Heritage Radio Network. If you drink, please do not drink and drive. Drink responsibly. Drive responsibly. Eat responsibly too. And listen to Heritage Radio Network responsibly. To listen to Heritage Radio Network responsibly, wear protective earbuds. While wearing protective earbuds, do not drive. Do not walk either. Sit in a comfortable chair. If that comfortable chair has a hard seat, please remember to stretch every 30 minutes. If you stretch every 30 minutes, please stay within your defined stressing capacity. And consult a doctor who specializes in stretching. If you don't have a doctor, maybe Dr. Ryan Acock, the Cocktail MD, can help you out. Thanks for listening. Agave Road Trip out.
Hey everybody, I'm Nick Latham.
And I'm Leah Bottima.
And we're the hosts of Were You Raised by Wolves?
Each week we try to make the world a kinder, nicer place.
Well, that's the idea at least.
I mean, we try.
Have you ever wondered what to do if you're ghosted?
Or what to do when a friend asks you to borrow money?
Or the proper way to eat Cheetos?
You know, the big questions.
So please find Were You Raised by Wolves wherever you listen.